ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Christmas after-school special version of Jimmy Dore, Glenn Beck, another man who's up his own ass about his own name, who literally, like, sprays his fucking initials all over the studio like some sort of, like, digital dog urinating in every corner. In case people forget who I am, they know, Glenn. They're just not impressed. But anyways, thanks. I appreciate that, guys. You guys are really sweet. Yeah, Jimmy does the lizard tongue thing, the jutting. Yes, obviously he's part of the David Icke lizard people. We know this. It's not even a conspiracy. I mean, where's the conspiracy? It's just a thing. We're just talking about it. I'm not even saying it is. I'm just reporting on the story. I do one video. What the fuck? All right. So here's Glenn Beck. This is the part. This is 4 hours ago this was posted. So this is after they've already had the indictment papers come out. This is after they've actually had the DA speak and the police officer. They've gone back to this a couple of times. This is the part that's still bugging Glenn Beck for some reason. Let's see what it is.
Okay, let me give you just some of the highlights from the affidavit, the important part of the affidavit. This is the story now from the police.
Also, okay, so at least he's citing that. Also, are his eyes glassy because he's sick again, or was he just crying?
That Paul Pelosi had a break-in at his house, and they arrested this guy named Pepe, and he spilled his guts. He sang like a bird as soon as they read him his Miranda rights. And here's what he said. Pepe said he pulled a hammer from Pelosi's hand and swung the hammer.
No, he did not. Fuck me. Right out of the goddamn gate. Okay, hold on one second. Here it is. This is the actual warrant, including applicable statutes, facts supporting the case, and then the in a Mirandized interview, blah blah blah. DePape stated that he was going to hold Nancy hostage and talk to her. If Nancy were to tell him the truth, he would let her go. If she lied, he was going to break her kneecaps. He was certain that she would not have told the truth, so he was planning on breaking her kneecaps. He also said she was the leader of the pack of lies. All right, so let's see how he tells it.
Striking Pelosi in the head. Now, I want to go back just...
Okay, first of all, listen to this again. Listen to this.
Striking Pelosi, the hammer from Pelosi's hand. Here's what he said.
Here's what he said. This is... Glenn Beck is saying that DePape said this.
DePape said he pulled a hammer from Pelosi's hand and swung the hammer, striking Pelosi in the head. Now, I want to go back.
Okay, first of all, that's not what DePape said. That's what the cops said. He brought his own fucking hammer. Where is it? Okay, say he broke into the house through a glass door, which was a difficult task that required the use of a hammer. That's how he got in the fucking house, right there. Of a hammer, right there. See that? DePape stated that Pelosi was in bed and appeared surprised by DePape. You think? He was fucking asleep. A guy broke in to the house with a hammer and comes into the bedroom. He was surprised. DePape stated that Pelosi was in bed and appeared to be surprised, told Pelosi to wake up. He was looking for Nancy. Pelosi responded that she was not present. Pelosi asked how they could resolve the situation and what DePape wanted to do. DePape stated he wanted to tie Pelosi up so that DePape could go to sleep while he was tired from carrying a heavy backpack to the Pelosi residence. So he was going to tie up Paul Pelosi. They call Nancy Pelosi Nancy, and they call Paul Pelosi Pelosi in this situation because this is the people involved. Okay? So he could go to sleep. Around this time, according to DePepe started taking out his twist ties from his pocket so he could restrain Pelosi. Pelosi moved towards another part of the house, but DePepe stopped him, and together they went back into the bed. He was going to leave. Basically, Pelosi tried to leave the room, and he took the hammer and they walked back in. He's like, okay. So they come back in. While talking with each other, Pelosi went to the bathroom where Pelosi grabbed a phone and called 911. DePepe stated he felt like Pelosi's action compelled him to respond. Like, push the door in or whatever. DePepe remembered thinking there was no way the police were going to forget about the phone call. He's a fucking weirdo. DePepe explained that he did not leave after Pelosi's call to 911 because, much like the American founding fathers with the British, he was fighting against tyranny without the option of surrender. DePepe reiterated this sentiment elsewhere in the interview. He said it multiple fucking times. DePepe stated that they went downstairs to the front door because the cops, it was less than 2 minutes. He called the cops and they're on their way. And then there was a little bit of back and forth, and he's like, they're at the door, the cops are at the door, and he's following him down there. And then right as he goes to open the door, the guy basically is going to swing at him. He goes, right here. DePepe stated, here it is. DePepe stated that he pulled the hammer away from Pelosi and swung the hammer towards Pelosi. DePepe explained that Pelosi's actions resulted in Pelosi taking the punishment instead. Now, if you say this, DePepe stated that he pulled the hammer away from this. This is him describing the incident. The cops saw this. The cops watched it fucking happen. Here's the part. This is before this. Responded to Pelosi resident of California, knocked on the front door. When the door was open, Pelosi and DePepe were both holding a hammer with one hand. DePepe had his other hand holding Pelosi's forearm. Pelosi greeted the officers. Hi. A crazy person. The officers asked them what was going on. DePepe responded, everything was good. Officers then asked Pelosi and DePepe to drop the hammer. Pelosi stepped back, and when he let go, the dude hit him. DePepe pulled the hammer from Pelosi's hand and swung the hammer, striking Pelosi in the head. So he described it just as the officers saw it. Officers immediately went inside and were able to restrain DePepe. While officers were restraining DePepe, Pelosi appeared to be unconscious on the ground. Yeah, because he'd just been hit in the head with a fucking hammer. But let's see how... you think Glenn's going to make this look like that whole exchange happened earlier than when the cops were there?
Just a little bit here, because I need you to hear what the police said at first. At 2:31 a.m., San Francisco Police Department, the officer Colby Wilms responded to the Pelosi residence, knocked on the front door. Now listen to this, because this is odd. When the door was opened, Pelosi and DePepe were both holding a hammer with one hand, and DePepe had his other hand holding onto Pelosi's forearm.
Yes, definitely not a firearm. Also, if you'll notice, in this situation, Pelosi has two arms. One where he's holding the hammer, and DePepe has the hammer itself in his hand and a hold of Pelosi's arm. The other hand is opening the fucking door. Points Pelosi.
Pelosi greeted the officers. No, wait a minute. Hang on a second.
Look, that's just their phrase for it. He didn't go, hi, how's it going? We're good.
First of all, what do you mean the door was opened? Who opened the door? Was Stretch Armstrong there? What happened?
How big's the living room? You're making shit up, Glenn. How big? They're right. He walked him towards the cops are here. You don't want to do this. Like he was yapping with them the whole time. The dude was nuts. He was like, you don't want to hurt me. I don't want to hurt you. But hi, help. And then bang, right? That's what happened. This all happened in 2.5 fucking minutes.
Who opened the door?
Pelosi did.
And when they opened it.
By the way, in this one, let's see. Okay. This is, they're not even, I will say, for the record, they're not saying. It looks like when the door was opened. That said, they knocked. It was a wellness thing. They knew that there was a person, an intruder in the house, and it was possibly a home invasion. So the cops probably opened the door. More than likely. But there's also a chance that he fucking just went, open the door.
Pelosi and DePepe were both holding a hammer with one hand. DePepe had his other holding onto Pelosi's forearm. So we know it couldn't be DePepe that opened the door. And again, unless Pelosi is Stretch Armstrong, who
Again, why? What the fuck? The front door opens onto the living room. This place is not that big.
opened the door. Pelosi greeted the officers. Hey, how are you guys doing? The officers asked what.
By the way, he did not say that. He just said, I'm Paul Pelosi. That's probably what they meant by greeted.
What was going on?
That will come out in trial.
DePape responded that everything was good. Officers then asked Pelosi and DePape to drop the hammer. Here's the affidavit now. DePape pulled a hammer from Pelosi's hand and swung the hammer, striking Pelosi in the head. Officers immediately went inside and were able to restrain DePape. While the officers were restraining DePape, Pelosi appeared to be unconscious on the ground. Officers removed a cell phone, cash, clipper cards, and an unidentified card from DePape's right shorts pocket. So he wasn't in underpants. He was in shorts.
Right. And by the way, I guess Stu dropped that joke a bunch of times. So did Jimmy Dore.
DePape provided officers his first.
I think the Clipper card is like a Metro Pass. Is that what it is? Or it might be an EBT card.
And last name. After officers asked DePape if he had ID on him, DePape said, yeah, it might be in my backpack on the back porch. He later stated, my backpack's near the broken glass, dudes. When officers were...
Yeah, that's not how he said it. He just told them that's where it was. And let's be abundantly clear what's happening here. A violent physical assault has happened during a home invasion. And Glenn is inserting artificial dialogue in his reading of this and the assumption, I suppose, from his listeners is that because he's making a voice that it's not really on the paper. And yet there's no indication that he's saying this in the same way that, like, Dinesh D'Souza's 2000 Mules uses that filmed footage of the guy in the backpack putting stuff in the ballot box, which is a fake ballot box, and the guy's an actor, but he doesn't put recreation or reenactment or any of that shit on there because there's no real word for when it's fucking fiction. So
removed DePape from Pelosi's residence. Police body-worn camera footage showed a glass door that appeared to be laminated glass broken near the door handle. San Francisco Police Department uncovered zip ties in the Pelosi bedroom and also in the hallway near the front door of the Pelosi residence. In addition,
What, Glenn, what are you looking around for? Your zip ties? Did I drop my zip ties? It makes me think.
addition, law enforcement searched DePape's backpack at the Pelosi residence. They found, among other things, a roll of tape, white rope, one hammer, one pair of rubber and cloth gloves, and a journal. So there were two hammers, but one was in the backpack. Witness statements. San Francisco police officer Colby Wilms was able...
Again, for the record, he's just reading this directly from the affidavit, the charging document. None of this is fucking weird for a home invasion. Like, this is how they read.
to interview...
Okay, hold on one second. Let's see. 1 second. Let's see. They're all There you go. Here's a Here's a two suspects charged in Kirkland home invasion. This is basically the breakdown of. This is just a random one. This is November 1st. This is today. Prosecutors allege two men broke into a Kirkland home and robbed a woman at gunpoint, where one suspect sexually assaulted the victim. King County prosecutors in Kirkland, Washington, filed 3 felony charges Monday alleging two men broke into a Kirkland home while a family was sleeping, robbed a woman at gunpoint. Court filings allege one of the suspects stayed behind after the robbery and sexually assaulted the victim. These crimes were especially brazen and brutal. The defendants entered the victim's home in the middle of the night, each pressing a gun against her body, one against her head, one against her chest. The victim feared she would surely be killed, but was most concerned about her family members who were asleep just a few rooms away in the home. In court filings, prosecutors allege Boubacar Toure and Mohamed Sisse entered a Norkirk home with handguns, found a woman sleeping on the couch around 1 a.m. on Friday. The victim told investigators they held guns to her head and chest, demanded her cell phone, debit, and credit cards, and cash. The woman told police suspects became agitated, threatened to shoot her as she attempted to unlock her phone, and she complied with their demands in fear of her and her family's lives. Eventually, Sesse left the house while Toure stayed behind and sexually assaulted the victim. The victim called 911 after the second man fled the house. Responding officers reviewed footage from cameras inside the home, which captured images of both suspects, surveillance from a neighbor's house that recorded a vehicle leaving the scene. Detectives searched for robberies and other crimes linked to the similar vehicle, helped them identify a license plate number and suspects linked to other gun-related crimes. Further investigation revealed a King County detective had earlier placed a tracking device on the suspect's car, which confirmed it had been parked nearby at the time of the crime. Within 30 minutes, Kirkland investigators said they found the vehicle parked at a SeaTac apartment complex. Detectives followed the vehicle as it traveled around Seattle and said its occupants appeared to match the suspects. Later that afternoon, as officers continued to watch the vehicle, the North Sound Metro SWAT team arrested both men and impounded the car. Now, this happens while the woman is asleep. Nobody else in her family is aware that any of that thing happened. If that woman was a sitting member of Congress, then the story we would be hearing from Glenn Beck is, how'd the rest of the family not know this was going on? What was the heck with, how is everything happening so silently? Sure, how do we know they had, how many guns were they? Was one of the guns hers? Why was she making phone calls? Like, this is how criminal indictments and charging documents initially sound. All the details come out at fucking trial.
A witness, witness one, who saw an individual all in black carrying a large black bag on his back walking near the Pelosi residence where witness one was parked. Okay, so hang on just a second. So if he was all dressed in black, did he put blackface on his legs? Because we just found out he was wearing shorts.
Okay. Well, you could be dressed in black and have your very white skin showing.
Yeah, it would be weird.
That's what we're doing today.
Yeah, witness number one was...
Also, the idea that he's wearing black shorts and a black hoodie and carrying a black backpack. What the fuck? Also, it's nighttime? It's fucking 2 o'clock in the morning?
Working private security and at an address nearby. Witness one then heard what he sounded like a banging on either the door or a car and heard...
Yeah, which is what you do when you're a gay male prostitute and you've been paid an extra $500 to break in, because that really is exciting.
Sirens within a minute or two. Pelosi was interviewed by the police.
Right. The whole thing took 2.5 fucking minutes from the break-in.
Officer,
fuck you.
Adrian Stark in the ambulance during the transport San Francisco General Hospital. Pelosi stated he had never seen DePape before. Pelosi was asleep when he came into his bedroom and stated he wanted to talk to Nancy. When Pelosi told him that Nancy was not there, he said, well, he just sit and wait. When he then said, Nancy's not going to be home for several days, DePape reiterated he would wait. Pelosi was then able to go into the bathroom, in which he was able to call 911. He stated...
Right. He tried to go out of the room. No, you skipped a part, fucko. He tried to leave the room. He tried to go out the bedroom door. DePape stopped him. So he went into the bathroom and shut the door, and he'd taken a phone, or he'd called from inside there, or they had a fucking panic room phone or some shit. The question about whether it was a cell phone or not was the part that's floated about this. But he made the phone call inside there, and at that point, DePape could hear him making the fucking call.
When the officers arrived, that was when DePape struck him with a hammer.
Right. Struck him with a hammer because he believes Nancy Pelosi is evil and that he needs to break her knees so that there's a warning to other members of Congress on the left specifically, because people like you, Glenn, have been calling her evil for a long fucking time.
In subsequent interview with law enforcement officers, he said that the hammer did not belong to the Pelosi family. In a Mirandized and recorded interview by the San Francisco police,
By the way, if you notice, Glenn is vacillating between reading articles about this and the actual charging document. So he is either just reading the parts from the charging document that are in some article, which he is not citing, or he is mixing and matching both sources, which is fucking nuts.
DePape stated he was going to hold Nancy hostage and talk to her. If Nancy were to tell DePape the truth, he would let her go.
The truth about the 2020 election and January 6th, you know, like a member of the squad would want her to do.
Go.
Oh,
If she lied, he was going to break her kneecaps.
Okay.
DePape was
Stu, don't fucking react like you haven't heard this shit before.
certain that Nancy would not have told the truth. In the course of the interview, DePape articulated he viewed Nancy as the leader of the pack of lies told by the Democratic Party. DePape also later
Hey, you're just gonna skip right past that? Because I gotta say, Glenn, that sounds like a quote from your fucking show or your fucking book.
explained that by breaking Nancy's kneecaps, she would then have to be wheeled into Congress, which would show other members of Congress there were consequences to actions. DePape also explained generally that he wanted to use Nancy.
All right, get to the point you don't understand. What part doesn't make sense other than you making weird jokes about how far you think it is from where they were standing in the front door? If that's all there is, I'm going to be fucking pissed.
To lure another individual to DePape.
Yeah, they don't say who that is. Probably Biden or AOC or somebody else enormous who was never going to all right, I'll let them go if you send in Kamala Harris. And then I'm going to attack her next. It's that stupid.
DePape stated that he broke into the house through the glass door, which was a difficult task and required the use of a hammer. DePape stated that Pelosi was in bed, appeared surprised by DePape. DePape
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, DePape told Pelosi to wake up. DePape told Pelosi that he was looking for Nancy. Pelosi responded she wasn't present. Pelosi asked how they could resolve the situation, and let's see, and what DePape wanted to do. He stated he wanted to tie Pelosi up so DePape could go to sleep, as he was pretty tired because he had to carry a backpack to the residence. Doesn't that seem like your average hippie? Man, I had to walk up all these hills.
Fuck you, man. If this is the hanky part, this is just lazy and again, excusing horrible violence.
I'm sleepy. Why don't you keep...
Also, for the record, the way they phrase this, and this is this both bears out in what Pelosi, said in what limited interview they had with him when he was in the ambulance, I think, and DePape himself, that he was like, okay, friend, how are we going to resolve this? Because there's a fucking crazy person in your bedroom, and he's screaming for your wife. He wants to know where Nancy is. So at some point, you have to go, all right, how are we going to resolve this? Because she's not coming for a little bit. This dude, Paul Pelosi, is trying to talk this motherfucker down. And does, by the way, a hell of a job.
Keep your eye out for the coppers while I take a nap.
No, he's going to tie him the fuck up. You just read that part, you shitheel.
Around this time, DePape started taking out twist ties from his pocket so he could restrain Pelosi. Pelosi moved towards another part of the house, but DePape stopped him. Together, they went back to the bedroom. While talking with each other, Pelosi went into the bathroom, where he grabbed a phone to call 911. He said, DePape said he felt like Pelosi's actions compelled him to respond. He remembered thinking there was no way police were going to forget about that phone call. DePape explained he did not leave after Pelosi's call to 911 because, much like the American
here's where we get into the area where Glenn's going to feel seen.
Founding fathers with the British, he was fighting against tyranny without an option of surrender. Okay.
Yeah, Again, that sounds like something you've said right before going to break on this fucking show. We've seen this shit a dozen times.
Now, here's the interesting thing.
All right. Break it down, dum-dum.
DePape stated that they went downstairs to the front door. The police arrived and knocked on the door, and Pelosi ran over to open it. Pelosi then grabbed onto DePape's hammer, which was in DePape's hand. At this point in the interview, he repeated that DePape did not plan to surrender and he would go through Pelosi. Okay, so wait, why would you go back to the hammer? Police are there. Why would you go back to the hammer?
What the fuck? He's not going back, motherfucker. Pelosi ran to the door. The police were there. Dunk, dunk, dunk. Mr. Pelosi, it's the police. Run to door. Open door. Guy comes at you. Grabbing thing. Door is open. Cops come in. I'm Paul Pelosi. This guy's in my house. Everything's fine, officers. This is that. Bang. Like, what the fuck? This all happened in like 12 seconds.
Doesn't make any sense. There's some.
No, it's not the situation that's the problem, Glenn. You're a fucking tool.
Something wrong with the door thing.
Why, Glenn? Why? Why? Because the front door of the Pelosi residence, a 2-story walk-up in San Francisco, empties into the living room at the base of the stairs. Like half the fucking houses in San Francisco.
I don't know what it is, and it might be just a error somewhere, but
it's not an error. You're a dumbass.
Yep.
There's something wrong with
No, there's something wrong with your perception, fucko.
that.
We should eventually know.
We should see
Because
the
there should be
video,
video, right?
We should see the video. Now, when he's
Yeah, you will.
talking about founding fathers, that's weird.
Why?
Because remember that thing we fixed after 9/11 when people overstay their visas?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we kick them out right away so we know who's here because that was so important.
Oh,
that
we're
was
very concerned about security.
Yeah, and Department of Homeland Security, that's what they do. This guy, long time overstay. He's a Canadian. He's an illegal alien from Canada.
Right. Squatting in San Francisco, views himself as an American, isn't, does a shit ton of drugs, and he thinks he's an American. He thinks he's a right-winger. He also thinks, Glenn, that you're smart. The dude's deluded.
So he's really into our founding fathers?
Yes, he is.
This hippie that has Black Lives Matter on his house?
It's not his house. The girl he's living in the garage of, she owns that house, and she's in jail. She is. Also, wait a minute. You're telling me that Charles Manson wasn't really a hippie and that the lyrics he wrote about free love weren't completely honest?
Really?
It's an interesting profile of a person, I'll tell you that.
It sure is.
Well, most of the time, when you find somebody who would break into someone's house and threaten to torture the Speaker of the House with a hammer, they're going to have a diversity of thoughts going on in their head.
Sure is. My guess is he's crazy. But I just want to point out how good it is of the media. You know, they haven't figured out the January 6th pipe bomber. Can't find him. Don't know where he is. Don't know who he is.
She.
What? Yeah, we have video, but what are we going to do with video? I mean, it's not like we have facial recognition or anything like that. We couldn't try. He's on the phone at the time. There's no way we could triangulate.
Allegedly. I'm just saying, he should be saying he or she.
And find out, you know, where he was,
Where she was or who she was. I mean, in all fairness.
Was by just using a phone like that. Of course, we haven't found the Supreme Court leaker, a single one of Epstein's clients.
No, actually. Matter of fact, one of them just filed a lawsuit. Hold on. Let's see. I think the Daily Beast had an article about this. You got to be careful about talking in absolutes. Let's see. Was on. Hold on one second. We'll open this up in a second. And then. Please not. Oh. Hold on, I'm trying to find. Putin. I'm gonna find it. God damn it! Give me a second. I'll just do a. I'll have to do a search on the site because it was earlier today. Let's see. Boink. Get out of here. Stupid picture. Search. Let's see. I'll just do it this way. 1 second, guys. Daily Beast, Epstein, whatever. That should do it. News. Yeah, there you go. Leon Black was one of Epstein's dudes, number 139. And he has filed a lawsuit against his rape accuser and accuses her of being a Russian spy. Yeah. Jeffrey Epstein's billionaire pal, Apollo Global Management co-founder Leon Black, has filed another lawsuit against the former Russian model who alleges he raped her, claiming she may be a Russian spy and that she and her lawyers attempted to harm and humiliate him despite the fact that she had already allegedly collected millions in a confidentiality agreement. Yeah. So, no, we've caught Leon Black. There's a bunch of other people. Trump, obviously. There's, hold on. I'm assuming that, we know some of the people, that hung out with Epstein, bros before hoes, I guess, right? Yeah, Pepe's been a U.S. resident since 2001.
We don't know the motive of the Las Vegas shooter, but
hold on. Also, Las Vegas shooter dead. They have got some of the Epstein folks. The bomber hasn't been caught, but this motherfucker was arrested alive in the act of striking somebody with a fucking hammer. By the way, he has pled not guilty. Here it is. Let's see. Here you go. This is the latest complicated situation. Pelosi suspect was on a suicide mission, targeted other polls, court docs. The man accused of viciously attacking House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband after breaking into her San Francisco home last week told police he was on a suicide mission, according to a new court filing obtained by the Associated Press. The 42-year-old had okay, let's see what the Associated Press has here. Where's that? Man accused, hold on, I gotta blow this up now. I'm not gonna read secondhand shit to my viewers, by golly, and by gosh. All right, get out of here. Decline. Go away. Okay. In the court filing, prosecutors detailed the attack in stark terms as part of a bid to keep DePape behind bars. Paul Pelosi was knocked unconscious by the hammer attack and woke up in a pool of his own blood, the filing said. DePape's intent could not have been clearer. He forced his way into the Pelosi home, intending to take the person third in line to the presidency of the United States hostage and seriously harm her. Thwarted by Speaker Pelosi's absence, defendant continued on his quest and would not be stopped, culminating in the near-fatal attack on Mr. Pelosi. Without being questioned, DePape told police officers and medics at the scene that he was sick of the lies coming out of Washington, D.C. The filing said, I didn't really want to hurt him, but this was a suicide mission. I'm not going to stand here and do nothing, even if it cost me my life. DePape, fucking ego with these assholes. DePape allegedly said he had other targets, including a local professor. Lucky you, whoever you are, prof. As well as several prominent state and federal politicians and members of their families. That's adorable. The filing did not name any potential targets. The case demands detention, nothing less, because they're making the case that he shouldn't get bail because he's fucking dangerous. Wearing orange jail clothing, DePape only spoke to tell Judge Diane Northway how to pronounce his last name. DePape. Okay? So no DePape, trying to make him sound Hispanic, which is what the Glenn Beck crowd are doing. The 42-year-old defendant, whose shoulder was dislocated during his arrest, is scheduled to return to court Friday. After the hearing, DePaps, public defender Adam Lipson said he looks forward to providing DePap with a vigorous legal defense. Now, let me say something about the vigorous legal defense that psychopaths and other people get. And this goes to, as well as like the idea of taking a mass shooter to Burger King or whatever, which is the story that they tell about Dylan Roof, who they, by the way, they did not take to Burger King. They did not take Dylan Roof to Burger King. They got him Burger King during his interrogation. They asked him what he wanted to eat. He said something. They said, how about Burger King? And he said, yes, and they went and got it for him. If you deny a defendant food during an interrogation, get ready for the entire case to get thrown the fuck out. You want them to get him a cigarette and coffee or a fucking Burger King if he asks for it. Because if his lawyer could say, they denied my client food, then the guy will walk free. You fucking morons. Like this whole shit, TYT does this all the time about Dylan Roof and they got him Burger King. I don't fucking care if they got him a goddamn T-bone if he kept talking. Because if you deny him food, or you deny him specific food, or you engage in something that he could later say was torture, he can't eat that, he eats this, blah, blah, blah. If you keep it easy and you're like, what can we get you? What do you need? Tell us the story. When you want something to eat, you want some coffee, whatever. If you do that, then they can't stand before a judge and go, my client was denied food and water. They tried to force him to eat meat when he's a vegetarian. They tried to force him to eat, prison food when he, wanted, he was afraid of that they were going to poison him, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't fucking matter. You want him convicted, and you don't want his attorney, who's going to give a vigorous legal defense, to say they manhandled, mistreated my client, they beat the shit out of him, they maltreated him. The only reason he confessed is because they were denying him food and all that stuff. Stop giving a fuck about any of that. It drives me crazy. There are legit murderers and legit rapists who've had their convictions overturned because of alleged mistreatment during interrogations when they were absolutely guilty on all other merits. And those people would go on or even had their sentences shortened because there was doubt in the judge's mind during sentencing about it. Well, I mean, he may have said that, but he might have been, low blood sugar or something like that. So I'm not going to hold it too much against him. So I'm going to give fucking Gacy 2 years for raping a 15-year-old. And then he would go out to murder other people. Same fucking thing with Bundy. Yes, a burger is a small price to pay for cooperation. Like any asshole goes, they took him to fucking Burger King. Of course they took him to fucking Burger King. He's a kid. He just murdered a bunch of people. And instead of dragging stuff through a trial where you have him go full Bundy or like that fucker who drove his car through a bunch of people in Wisconsin, you don't want that dude like defending himself and shit-talking witnesses and people coming up there recounting what had happened to them and going, would you really expect this jury to believe that I'm the one who did this and this and this? Tell me again what I did to you. Like, basically torturing people on the stand. If you can get him to admit to it and just cop a plea and say, plead guilty or confess, and shorten the trial and put it in a situation where you don't have to bring the victims up and re-victimize them, you fucking do it. That's what this guy means with vigorous legal defense. Believe me. If this guy asks for Earl Grey tea and they give him chamomile, that his vigorous legal defense is going to say they tried to poison him. And you don't want him getting out for that reason. So if somebody's innocent, then you want them to get out. You want a vigorous legal defense to prove that they didn't do it. This motherfucker did it. So he's going to try everything he can to try and avoid the full, consequences of his actions. So there we go. We're going to do a comprehensive investigation of what happened. We're going to be looking into Mr. DePap's mental state. And I'm not going to talk any further about it until I have more information. So that's the other thing, too. Complicated situation. Pelosi sent shockwaves through the thing. Midterm elections, yada, yada, yada. While Pelosi was on the phone with the 911 operator, DePape was gesturing and telling him to hang up. Pelosi then told the dispatcher that he did not need police, fire, or medical assistance, but he instead asked for the Capitol Police because they are usually at the house protecting his wife. Moments later, the dispatcher heard him interacting with a man, and Paul Pelosi said, he thinks everything's good. I've got a problem, but he thinks everything's good. That's where the guy was going. Everything's good. Tell him everything's good. Tell him everything's good. That's why he said it at the fucking door. Dude was a broken record. Let's get Manger said the attack on Pelosi's husband was an alarming reminder of the dangerous threats elected officials face. Okay, there we go.
Paul Pelosi, that midnight visitor, man, they knew he was a Republican that fast.
Dude, he was saying, "Where's Nancy?" Who the fuck breaks into a house, a random house, attacks somebody, looking for the person who's third in line to be the president? What Democrat's going to break into that? I mean, there's some hardcore door fans who believe the neocon storyline hook, line, and sinker, but they're not going to get off their lazy ass and go kill somebody.
It's good to know. It's good to know. By the way, the mainstream media, and here's the problem, the mainstream media picks and chooses. If it was fair and honest and balanced, and they told the truth about everything, you wouldn't have this argument. But
what argument? If they were fair and balanced, you're the one making shit up.
The right wing is out of control. It's weird because I don't think it was the ones who was responsible for burning cities down and hundreds of attacks on Republicans. So
hundreds of attacks on Republicans. Hundreds. I can think of one. Steve Scalise, Bernie supporter, opens fire at a congressional baseball game. Opens fire on a lot of people. Scalise got the worst of it. Of the congressional members. He wasn't there to target him in particular. He was there to target Republicans. That's it. Every single one of the Jan 6 fuckers was there with a gallows to their right to hang. They were chanting, "Hang Nancy Pelosi." That dude, DePape, probably thought he missed out on the big party.
I mean, I don't know if you know this, but there are 639 receipts for their violence and mass shooting. There was the time that Jane Fonda promoted kidnapping, caging, and raping Barron Trump. I love that one. That was...
Okay, first of all, hold on. Jane Fonda, cage, Barron Trump. That would be Peter Fonda. Hold on.
Fonda promoted kidnappings and mass shooting. There was the time that Jane Fonda promoted...
Again, he's talking... Whoops. Hi, Walmart. Peter Fonda apologized Wednesday for a late-night Twitter rant in which he suggested 12-year-old Barron Trump should be ripped from his mother's arms and put in cage with pedophiles. An all-caps tweet in the wee hours went on to call President Donald Trump an expletive. The actor later deleted the tweet and drew sharp rebukes from First Lady Melania Trump and Donald Trump Jr., the two-time Oscar nominee, brother of Jane Fonda and son of Hollywood legend Henry Fonda, said in a statement hours later he was upset over children separated from their parents on the U.S.-Mexico border. I tweeted something highly inappropriate and vulgar about the president and his family in response to the devastating images I was seeing on television. Like many Americans, I'm very impassioned and distraught over the situation, the children separated from their families. So he was basically like, it was a see how you like it tweet, which is off limits. Don't fucking do that. Also not Jane, it was Peter. But, you have to understand, Glenn thinks that gender is fluid and up to the person to decide, clearly.
kidnapping, caging, and raping Barron Trump. I love that one. That was a super favorite. They
Yeah, you loved it so much you attributed it to the wrong person.
attacked Roger Stone's handicapped wife while walking a dog. Vandalized
Who did?
the homes of political opponents. Tried to kick in the front door of Tucker Carlson. Journalist that
And no, they didn't. And again,
stabbed two Trump supporters. The home.
a who?
Journalist that stabbed two Trump supporters.
A journalist that stabbed two Trump supporters. Elijah, a Trump supporter stabbed multiple times by Antifa militant, independent journalist. Oh, I'm sorry. I blocked from reading that tweet, apparently. Vegas reporters death, example, threats to journalists. Black Trump supporter stabbed, protest says medics. Yeah, this says Elijah on Twitter. Elijah Schaefer apparently has blocked me, I guess. So I can't see that. Yeah. I can't read that one apparently because apparently Elijah Schaefer calls me, considers me slightly offensive. I cannot follow or see them. It's so terrible. Media crickets. So the FBI is warning about armed protests, state capitals. Court say Kyle is okay. Journalist. This says yeah. The idea that it's Antifa somehow. Police arrest county clerk and reporter stabbing death. Politician arrested. Vegas reporter slain in Vegas. Yeah. Again, that's like some sort of like indie journalist, Antifa dude, supposedly hardly a Democrat, and fuck off.
The home of a Trump supporter that was bombed. They drove through a crowd of Trump supporters.
Did they?
Left dead animals and threats outside of Republican homes.
Dead animals, dear God.
They've threatened to burn down the homes of Trump supporters, shot at Trump supporters, fired a gun at a march, beat
So you're saying Paul Pelosi deserved it, is your point?
a 77-year-old for wearing a MAGA hat, threatened Republicans on
Again, this is a gish gallop.
Twitter every day, sent rice and
Just every day.
to Trump, taught leftists to hate students. You're
just throwing that one in there. Taught leftists to hate students. Why would you have to teach leftists to hate anybody? What, don't they just hate in general?
Defaced property of Trump supporters.
No, not defaced property. Well, that's the same as getting vandalism. Is the same as getting your head caved in with a fucking claw hammer.
They egged children at a Trump rally.
They egged children at a what? First of all, huh? Again, citation or didn't happen. I need a list of pictures.
Teachers threatened death on GOP.
Teachers threatened death on GOP as a party, you mean? Kind of in the abstract?
Beaten a 12-year-old boy for a Trump sign. Beat a woman for wearing a Trump hat. They've destroyed property. We have 300 stories.
Yeah, why don't you cite one specifically? And next time you cite the Peter Fonda story, attribute it to him and not Jane. I know, here's the thing. The problem is that Peter has not been as stoically left-wing as Jane has over time. And what you want is Hanoi Jane to catch shit. So you made it up in your mind that she did it, not Peter. And by the way, he apologized and said it was gross. And he was it was basically using short language. But please continue.
Like that. Just thought I would. But that, real quick, that New York Post hacker last Friday, the guy who wrote Rufo, he took over the feed of the New York Post. He worked at the New York Post. Okay. He's apologized. He said, oh, man, it was just the utmost betrayal of my people. I pretended to hack into the New York Post website. And, it was my job, but I let my stupidity get the best of me. But I want you to know I deserve to get fired, but it wasn't politically motivated. Let me just give you a few of the posts. Rufo, we must destroy and imprison union teachers. Zeldin, Eric Adams is New York City's fried chicken eating monkey.
Oh, these are the things that he wrote while he was on there.
Governor Abbott, I'll order Border Patrol to start slaughtering illegals. Zeldin, I'll rape and batter Hochul's sorry ass. The New York Post, he also posted, we must assassinate AOC for America. Divine, we must murder Joe and Hunter Biden. The New York Post, he posted, Frank, I'll beat up the sorry-ass Bergen bitches like Gottheimer and his family. I don't know why people say that those were politically motivated.
Well, I think he was just kind of fucking with the New York Post. The New York Post likes those people or considers people like AOC their enemies and therefore exaggerating in the attack and also hiding the fact that he took over the thing from inside.
Maybe.
Again, who gives a fuck?
Maybe there's the slightest hint of politics involved, but it's difficult to detect unless you're really a trained observer.
Yeah. I could go on. I have 135 attacks on pro-life people.
Do you now?
Just between
Tiller wouldn't be one of those people?
May 3rd and September 24th. But remember, it is the Republicans that are conspiracy theorists. One more thing. I'm sorry.
What conspiracy theorists? What a weird accidental snap. He caught himself.
Kathy Hochul has come out yesterday with a very important thing. She says that the people who mention, anything to do with the race being fixed, data deniers, and conspiracy theorists, she said these are master manipulators. Yeah,
that's not fair. That is not fair at all. That's they're just saying that to make the people who fell for it, feel like they can come back from the edge of idiocy. What you do is, it's not your fault for buying this. People like Glenn Beck and Donald Trump, they're masters of the media. It wasn't your fault. They're great at this. Instead of going, fuck, you're a sucker. You believe this dipshit?
And there's a conspiracy that they're peddling now, that there's this conspiracy going all across America to convince people that in democratic states they're not safe. Wow, what a conspiracy that is.
That's him throwing to break. Also, what part of this whole thing didn't make sense other than the fact that Glenn Beck doesn't know how big the living room is, or that the door was attached to the living room, or the fact that Paul Pelosi, while he was trying to get the guy not to attack him, goes to answer the door and the guy attacks him with a hammer, grabs it and says, I'm Paul Pelosi. And they're like, he's like, everything's good, leave us alone. And then Pelosi pulls his hand back. They tell him, let go. He lets go. The guy doesn't and attacks him. And that's the hinky part. The hinky part is, how long are Paul Pelosi's arms? Every bullshit talking point that Glenn threw around for days has eaten shit. And he's stuck with, how far were they standing from the door when the cops showed up? Ugh, God, so lazy. All right, now, by the way, you're watching House Sparks MAGA Worldwide. I think that shows taste and breeding on your part.